Good morning, good morning. Right, so Rishi Sunak's summer statement yesterday, interim statement, not really a mini budget, but the statement of address with regards to what's actually happening, what they're going to do, and how we're going to essentially turn this round. So I'm going to give you a few summary points with regards to a few key points that were mentioned, how you can effectively use those, and the things we should be making the most of. But then equally, there's one huge thing that everybody seems to be missing, and the opposition have missed it. All of the reports and statements and reviews that I've read today have missed it, and it's blatantly obvious. And Rishi even alluded to it. I've been talking about it for about 6 weeks. Rishi even alluded to it at the beginning of his statement, but everybody seems to have completely missed it. So let's review a few of the key points. So stamp duty, for property investors, stamp duty is obviously well up there. Stamp duty has now been, the threshold, the zero rated threshold has now been increased to 500,000, 500,000. So anybody buying a property under 500,000 won't be charged stamp duty, unless of course you're an investor, in which case you'll benefit from the waiver on the residential rate, but you'll still pay the additional rate, which is 3%. For properties up to 500,000. So that's good. It will create some activity. Obviously, one of the things to remember there is that will create activity for people who want to buy and sell, and also are in a position to buy and sell. So whilst it'll see a temporary stimulus to transaction levels, there is an underwriting element to this with regards to affordability. Obviously, there is the finance market sort of freezing up. With regards to stamp duty, I don't think really that it could have been released later in the year. If you remember one of my videos from last week, I said I don't think they'll announce stamp duty yet, because we're yet to see the real impact on the property market. I think what happened there was it got leaked, and people knew it was coming, and then what happened was the sentiment there is, if it wasn't announced yesterday, and even if it was alluded to, or even if it wasn't alluded to, what it would have done is created it would have caused the market to stall, because people knew that it was coming or should come. So people would just stall, and it would slow transaction levels, and it would just slow things down. It was announced, so I think it's going to create some activity. However, I think what we'll see with transaction levels and prices is what we benefit from in increased appetite and transactions from the stamp. The increased threshold in stamp will actually be offset with a reduction in completions. We've got a number of refinances and purchases going through at the minute, and sales, and finance without doubt is getting more challenging. Loan to values are reducing, rates are going up, and simultaneous to this stamp duty period, what we're also going to see is people's eligibility and affordability reduce, because people are on furlough towards October. That's going to start to taper off. Less people are going to be able to buy. Those who want to buy and should be able to buy may not be able to raise the finance, and those who can raise the finance may not be able to raise the deposits, because obviously deposits even on resi at the minute are increasing as a percentage. So stamp duty's there, it's good. It'll probably, I think at best, it'll stabilise the market. I don't think we're going to see a spike. I think we're going to see a huge ramp up in transaction levels. I think it will stabilise the market. Equally, they're talking about, you've got to really understand the data behind the headlines, and also don't listen to the media and the press. Those of you that listen to the following statements and questions from the opposition, it's just painful to listen to now. Everything's negative. Everything's got a bad thing. It's too slow, it's too quick, it's too much, it's too little. They just can't win. So just don't tune into that stuff. But then equally, like headlines like property prices have dropped for the first time in X. That's the drop over was 0.2%. Now, all things considered, that's pretty strong. And if you think we're also at transaction levels, we're a third down on stock this time from last year. And prices, if you do them year on year, so what we're in now, July, June prices, if you look at June against June, we're still 2.2% higher than they were this time last year. So I think it will continue to stabilise the market. It will just prevent a reduction. What we'll lose in transactions from people not having finance will be offset with an increase from the stamp. So that's something to consider. Green, so the green deal's back. Now this is really good. So the green deal's back, and there's two ways you can capitalise on this. One is with your investment, or your homes, obviously, but also your investment properties. So the government now will pay 2/3 of certain types of insulation, and that does include loft insulation, it includes external insulation, cavity walls, it includes double glazing. Now the good thing here is you can get a good return on your investment, because twofold. Well, one is EPC ratings will always get more increased. Those of you that are building developments now, you'll know how onerous some of the ratings are. The existing stock will start to follow that, especially when we get back to a mature market. So there's good opportunity to invest in your investment properties and use these initiatives, because one, you might think, well, why bother, because I don't live in it, I don't pay the bills. Well, if you think you're only paying 66%, lower income people who live in the houses between £5,000 and £10,000, but if the government are paying 2/3, then if you think about the balance sheet value of double glazing, things like that, there'll be a balance sheet value which has actually been subsidised by the government. So there's a good opportunity there, one, to improve the quality of your stock, which whilst you might have to put a third in, you will get more than that on your balance sheet value, so that's really good. Also, obviously, like for like, other people are going to be doing it, so if you don't do it, if you're eligible for it and you don't do it, when you come to sell your property, if yours and next door's up, and yours next door's got insulation, double glazing, and your rental property that you're selling hasn't, obviously it's going to actually cause a reduction in price. So definitely an initiative there. Equally, I alluded to this in a video earlier in the week. I know people who actually built companies specifically to deliver these grants. Now, one of the things we talk about on Property Entrepreneur is about niching and catching the curve of a wave. If you've got the infrastructure to roll this out as a product, whether you've got a maintenance company or a construction company or a roofing company, and you start to add this as a bolt-on to your clients, and you specialise in that, create a brand, create a little sub-business, and you specialise in government-backed insulation, the demand for that will be significant. And I know people that used variable cost businesses. So again, on Property Entrepreneur, we teach about the difference between fixed costs and variable costs, especially when you're scaling up, especially when you're in your short-term market. There's windows of opportunity here, which will only be here for 2, 3, 5 years. If you can scale up using variable costs, you've got to be aware of like the IR32 considerations, but if you scale up with variable costs, you could really clean up using this as a product or service, and to gain clients, to gain revenue, to get more business. So that's really good. Jobs is obviously a key focus. We had lots of stuff on jobs yesterday. So return from furlough bonus. So the furlough scheme bonus now. Furlough scheme bonus, you bring anyone back and employ them to January, get £1,000 bonus. Now, that's not really an incentive. It's not really a stimulus, it's more of a sentiment. And what this is a mechanism to get capital into businesses, because we can't keep giving out grants and things like that. But what this is basically a grant. This is to show there's no incentive there. Average salaries last year were about £30,000. Obviously, that's the highest in a decade, lowest unemployment in 40 years. Average salaries last year were about 29 to 30,000. Obviously, they're going to drop significantly now with unemployment increasing. But as an employer, would you be incentivised to bring somebody back for, I don't know the maths, 2 weeks' wages? I'll pay the first 2 weeks if you cover the other 50. I don't think so. It's not going to incentivise that. However, it is a very clever mechanism to be able to give money. The government needs to be able to give money legitimately, basically. Give money to businesses to keep going. If you've got a workforce of 15,000 and you're bringing them back in, or even, those of us who've got smaller workforces, it's another way for us to get free cash, like those grants that we got. It helps. It goes a long way. So that's basically what that is. Kickstarters is going to be good. I definitely recommend looking at Kickstarters. So Kickstarters, 18 to 25s. Anyone that you recruit within 18 to 25 with a new job. So this is going to be great for like your little sales roles or your office administration or social media. Anything where you can do entry-level roles where you can provide a bit of training, give them experience. The government will actually cover their salary now for 6 months, and they'll contribute towards overheads. Now, if you can get even the modest of return on that capacity, which is very realistic, the government are going to pay that for you. So Kickstarters, I think, is a great initiative. Traineeships, it was said that traineeships have not been, this is a brand new initiative. It's actually not. There is a government scheme at the minute where you get paid £1,000 to take an apprentice. And you can't use Kickstart and apprentices together, by the way. It has to be one or the other. So Kickstart, create a brand new job. You have to recruit them on minimum wage, minimum 25 hours a week. And the government will basically pay their full salary for 6 months. Now that is a no-brainer. If you want to get capacity, you want to get ready for the gold rush, build your team up, it's a no-brainer. It's fully paid for by the government plus a contribution to overheads. We'll see what that is in the detail, but it's launching next month. First Kickstarter's coming in the autumn. It'll be good. I think that's a really, really good initiative. The traineeships, there's going to be more of them. There's going to be more support for unemployed. So they're going to scale up the job centre workforce. There's even talk of having concessions in supermarkets to support with career development, recruitment, people are out of work. So that'll be good. And there'll be support available to introduce training to your businesses so that you can we can train up and get these traineeships or traineeships, apprenticeships and Kickstarters. And there'll be access to some training that we can. You've got to do that to qualify, and a lot of that will be public sector supplied or funded, so that's really good. The hospitality sector dropping VAT down to 5%, bang on. Like hopefully, I mean, there's two options. There's two things there. It's basically supercharging it. So you've got the 5% drop to VAT for hospitality, which is great, and you've also got the eat out to help out scheme. So you go out and eat Monday to Wednesday. Now this is quite important for a few reasons, but you go out and eat Monday to Wednesday and the government will pick up 50% of the tab up to £10 a head. That's cool, like that's good. It's creative and it shows the savviness of the current government that we're under, and I quite like that. I think it's good. I did hear a funny Labour statement. The Labour said Labour's comeback was Boris Johnson promised to say. So if you heard Boris Johnson's speech last Tuesday or Wednesday, build, 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 and he related it to Roosevelt's New Deal, which is quite a way off that, significantly off that. The New Deal was like £5,000 or £6,000 a head. The current pledges from Conservatives is £100 a head. Significantly different, but it gives you a sentiment of where it's going. That was called the New Deal, and one of the Labour oppositions came in last night and said Boris promised us a new deal and Rishi's given us a meal deal. I thought that was quite funny, but don't let that take away from it, because it's a great initiative. It's creative, it's strategic, it will stimulate spending. As long as it's promoted well and people take it up, I think it'll go really well. And then VAT's being dropped. So what you're doing there is supercharging spending, because if, and this is one of the big ifs, if the hospitality sector pass on that reduced VAT rate, so they pass on the reduced VAT rate, so your meal is already 15% cheaper, plus then the government pay 50% of that 85%, that's supercharged, like that's really, really, really attractive. That's going to make a big difference. I said a couple of weeks ago, a 5% VAT rate adjustment is not going to make a difference here. 50% off plus a 15% drop in VAT, if it's passed through to the consumer, will be supercharged, and you will visibly notice eating out being significantly cheaper. So that runs through the month of August. That'll be good. We'll have to see if the hospitality sector actually pass on those savings, because they might not. They might just absorb it. They might hold their price point, use the 50%, and then just use it to recapitalise their business. There's nothing wrong with that. That is fine. They've got to get this cash from somewhere. They've got to get the throughput up. They operate on such small margins. The reality of operating on 80% is it has a huge impact, or even 50%. It was going to be 30% when we had 2 metre social distancing. So yeah, that's. I think that was good. I think that worked well. What else do we have? They're the ones. They're the key things that spring to mind. Question here from me: do buy-to-let and limited companies get reduction in stamp duty? Yeah, so they'll get the same residential. They'll get the same reduction that buyers do. So people who buy in the resi market, investors and companies will get the same resi reduction. However, there'll be the additional rate for second homes and investment properties. So it still saves money. You'll save the same money as a resi buyer, but you just got to pay your tax for being an investor. The main benefit there will be if you're selling stock. If you've got new build stock, probably towards it was to try and get first time buyers going, but my concern with first time buyers is the biggest area that's been hit with this is 18 to 25s. Graduates, hospitality, retail, there's huge uncertainty there, and if they've not already been made unemployed, then they're on furlough. And all of that is going to play into the finance viability, and we'll see. I don't want to be negative. I think fair play, it's an adjustment. It'll see some transactions for those who can complete, but yeah, I don't know how high impact it's going to be. So they're the key things that spring to mind at the minute. Right, so the thing that everybody's missed. Now, like I say, don't read too much of the news or follow the media because it's all so negative. They've got no objective other than poking each other with sticks. It's just, I have to turn it off. Like, I genuinely have to turn it off now because it's just irritating. But what everybody seems to have missed, and this is highly predictable. So success and failure are very predictable. And I wrote a report called the Gold Rush Report at the end of June, beginning of July. If you read YPN magazine, it was published in YPN magazine this month. And in there I talked about the highly predictable nature of how this is going to play out. I talked about the 12-week period of lockdown, and how in week 2 we drafted a model of exactly what was going to happen. And give or take a week, sense check this with any of the property entrepreneurs, give or take a week, everything that we said was going to happen would happen, whether it was furlough, universal credit, the period at which we had a phased lockdown, how the industry was going to release. We predicted that all the way through, and we guided our 100 property entrepreneurs through that, and that was phase 1. You can read this in the Gold Rush Report. If you haven't got YPN magazine, go to property-entrepreneur.co.uk and you can download the Gold Rush Report there. Phase 2, in there I talk about dusk. Now dusk is where, if you think about phase 1 being the dark, lockdown, we can't see anything, we don't know where this is going. That was dark, and we predicted that reasonably well. I then predicted we'd go for this dusk phase after dark, which would be the lights starting to lift. So we've got a level of light, so you can just see ahead of you, but you can't really see around the corner, you can't see the signposts, you can't move at a huge amount of pace because you don't know where you're going, lots of uncertainty. And what we're doing is waiting for the light to lift so we can actually see what's happening. And during this dusk phase, we will return everybody to business, we will reopen the economy, we will establish what the actual impact has been to the economy, trading, and what the level of economic scarring has been. And we'll start to see what happens as the economy reopens. And you can't start accelerating and making really high impact decisions until you can see the whole road, until you can see the road, see the signs, rely on hundreds of years worth of economic data to decide what we're going to do. There's this dusk period where it's really uncertain, and that's where we are now. And then towards the end of this year, we'll move into a period of dawn and dials. Dawn is where you've got full light. So you've got full light, you can see the road, you can see the bends, you can see the signs, you know exactly how the ground lies, and then you make highly strategic decisions based on what you can see. Now we can't see that yet, but we're going to get there. That's written in the Gold Rush Report. I wrote that about 5 or 6 weeks ago. It's published in YPM magazine, you can download it from our website. And what Rishi said yesterday, so he's never mentioned this before, ever, what he said yesterday at the beginning of his speech, and nobody else has picked up on this. All they want to do is, it's not enough, it's not quick enough, what about this, what about that? The reality is he doesn't know what's happening, we don't know. Hospitality has only been open for 4 or 5 days. We've got to get hospitality open, get retail open, see how many people go through administrations, pre-packs, get everybody off furlough between now and October, see how many come back, how many people use flexi furlough, how all this plays out, and then we can make some strategic decisions. And in the same way that on Property Entrepreneur we call this the dark, the dusk, and then the dawn and the dials, Rishi, in his opening 5 minutes, go back and watch it, in his opening 5 minutes announced that this is a 3-phase programme. They've now decided that they're using a 3-phase model to return the economy back to a good position. The first phase was protect. Lock down the economy, protect everybody from the illness, and put everybody on furlough, just to protect our people, to protect our economy. The second phase, which is what he announced yesterday, we call it dusk. He's calling it return to work. It's basically, let's get everybody back to work, let's get the economy open, let's try and provide some initial incentives to areas that we know are going to be impacted, which is 18 to 25s, things like that. Get back to work and let's see what's actually happening. Let's see how many people come off furlough. Let's see how these industries and economies actually trade when we open back up. And then stage 3, which is the dawn and the dials, will be his autumn statement. So it's likely to happen in October, which is exactly when we plan doing our strategy. October, November, December is when we do our strategy every year. It's not a coincidence that the autumn budget is going to be in October. Furlough ends in October. Retail and hospitality will all be fully open by October. That is when we move into phase 3. And that is phase 1, we call dark. He's called it protect. Phase 2, we call it dusk. He's called it back to work. And phase 3, we call it dawn and dials, the gold rush. When you put your foot down, you expand. It's the entrepreneur's playground. He's called it rebuild. Everybody seems to miss the fact that this is not a budget. This is not the strategy to recover from this. This is an interim period as the light starts to lift to establish what is actually happening out there. We need to get people off furlough. How many of these people on furlough? 9 million people on furlough, 11 million if you include the self-employed equivalent are on furlough. How many of these have actually got jobs to come back to? When we reopen the economy and we give it enough time for people to get their confidence back, people to change their spending habits, people to get out and get familiar with the new normal. These little initiatives are trying to encourage spending. They're trying to get these things going. When we've got all that back, what is the actual picture? And then the autumn budget is where it all happens. Everybody seems to have missed this. The autumn budget is where the stimulus comes. The autumn budget will be where the government initiatives come in. We'll see things like NI holidays. We'll see deferment of VAT. We'll see capital made available for small businesses. Autumn will be the big, heavy hitting, this is where we're going, this is what we're doing. And the reality is it'll be driven by entrepreneurs. It'll be encouraging entrepreneurs to focus on certain spaces. They'll be to grow, to expand, to create jobs, and to really get the economy going. And everybody seems to have missed this. This is highly predictable. Success and failure are very predictable. We predicted this about 2 months ago. It's printed on the report on our website. It's printed in YPN magazine. If you read that, that is exactly what happened in yesterday's statement. But nobody seems to have picked up on it. All they want to do is talk about why is there no support for these industries? Why is there no this? Why is there no that? Why is he not thinking about these things? Where's all the announcements for the spending you've promised? It's coming in the autumn. Like, that's why it's there. We've got to go through this dusk period to raise the light, see what's happening, understand the market, and then we actually put our foot down. As property entrepreneurs, this is the opportunity to get speculative, to understand what's happening, to play the game and to get the first mover advantage. As we go into dawn and dials, it will become more commonplace, we'll start to get confidence, and then it's just a race to the top until we get back into a boom or a bubble. Entrepreneurs are without a doubt the ones who are going to be leading the way with this, and the property entrepreneur methodology is exactly how we do that. If you've not already downloaded the Gold Rush report, feel free to do that. And whilst there wasn't a huge amount of support in the summer statement yesterday, we're going to be launching 10 places onto our property entrepreneur program. So our 3-day program, we're going to pay for all of your training. So you cover your costs of the hotel, the event, 3 days at the Belfry. Tomorrow at midday, we're going to launch 10 places to our 3-day property entrepreneur blueprint event. Last event was rated 9.9 out of 10 by all delegates. We had to actually ferry people in on minibuses with standing room only because there was such a demand for it. We only run it 3 times a year. We've got one event left in August, one event left in September. And for those of you that are serious about making the most of this, success and failure are very predictable. In the report, you'll see the model of how the economy is going to work. And on the 3-day, I'll show you the exact methodology. It's unique, it's proven. We have 100 property entrepreneurs who use it every year. I've used it to build all of our companies. It's unique, it's proven. That is the way that we scale our companies up through this. So if you're interested in that, tune into my profile tomorrow, midday till 1 o'clock, 10 places, and they're normally £3,000 per place. But tomorrow we're gonna pay for all of your training. You just basically need to pay for the hotel. So it's buy one get one free. So it's not £3,000, it's £1,500, and you can bring somebody else for free. So basically, find somebody else who wants to do this with you. Come spend 3 days at the Belfry with us. The Belfry is 5-star accommodation, all accommodation included, 3-course meals. Last year voted the UK's best golf and spa resort. It's hosted the Ryder Cup 4 times. You've never been there. It's a joy just to be there. I'm there tomorrow. Come join us, spend 3 days with us, find yourself a partner for midday tomorrow, and for £750 you can get 3 days at the Belfry, 5-star accommodation, all inclusive, and we will pay for your training. 3 days worth of business and property training, what it takes to actually be the next market leading entrepreneur and how to actually make the most of this gold rush. success and failure are very predictable. Those of you that follow me on social media, for the last 3 months, I've been sharing exactly what's going to happen here. And if you read the budget, or look at yesterday's budget, read the report, you'll see that it's playing out exactly as we expected. Don't miss the opportunity to ride the gold rush. Those who make it now, make it big. Success and failure are very predictable. And for the first 10 of you at midday tomorrow, on my profile, we'll release the discount code, open the checkout, and I'll see 10 of you at the Belfry in either August or September. Hope you're all well. Have a great day. Hope you enjoyed the sentiments with regards to the summer budget. And yeah, get ready for the autumn one, because that's going to be dawn and dials. That's when we open the taps, and that's when we actually fly into the gold rush. So I'll catch you all later. Have a good day.